It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here, all by myself. Eric Frandsen, not quite here yet. 4781. Unfortunately, you missed out on a cookie or a cookie emoji that I would have sent you. Eric Frandsen didn't show up 10 minutes after your text. He just actually barely texted me saying he's in Richmond. So not too far. Could probably make it here by the end of the show. Not probably. Richmond ain't an hour away. So he will be in Logan by the end of the show. But we'll be making it through the lion's share of this show without him. Eric just taking an impromptu vacation to Idaho Falls. But it's okay. Sometimes I leave him high and dry. It just happens. I told him one day, just kind of the day or two ahead, I'm going to go to the high school football championships. Can I go? Will you be okay if I just up and leave for a day? Obviously worked that out pretty well. It was a fun day for those championships. They're all really close games, including one of the best comebacks I've ever seen in my life. With that, was it Stansbury and Crimson Cliffs? Or I can't remember. It was Crimson Cliffs and somebody else. But yeah, pretty spectacular games there. But we're going to lead off this second hour with the topic that I saw and I knew. I was like, we're going to talk about this on the show. And we're going to have a conversation because this is a potentially really big change. It's a potential change. That's the key because it's not guaranteed to happen. I'm pretty confident it will happen given the support that it has kind of at this at the kind of initial level, but we'll see because it's got to pass some other committees and boards and whatnot. But I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of the show, and that is this proposal that would change the transfer portal for college football. Currently, there is a window that runs most of December. Like this year, I think it was December 2nd-ish. Maybe December 12th or 13th. I can't remember. Maybe mid-December. Basically after conference championship weekend. And it ran all the way until nigh upon New Year's Eve. It was December 28th, I think. There's also a window basically right around the beginning of April, and it runs for 2 weeks. That's currently what we have for the transfer portal in college football. Graduate transfers can enter the portal pretty much anytime they want to. There aren't really any restrictions. For instance, when we spoke to Spencer Petras, you're asking about his journey to Utah State. He was talking about knowing where he was going to go and entering the portal in November or even way back in October before he ended up with the Aggies. That's because he was a grad transfer. You can enter in at pretty much any point if you're a grad transfer. There's also the exception for if a head coach leaves, the portal opens up for 2 weeks. So this doesn't impact those exceptions. This would just be for, the vast majority of cases entering the portal. And so this change is to move the portal window, basically actually eliminate the December window, eliminate the window in April, and have one basically 10-day portal window starting on January 2nd. So basically after the New Year's Six games, or what is now the second round of the college football playoff. Or first or second round or something like that, and have it run through January 12th. And it would start next year, the 2025-2026 academic year. So, yeah, that in the where this came from and where this news comes from is so at the 2025 American Football Coaches Association conventions, the coaches, they said they unanimously supported this change. It was brought up saying we need to move the portal. Having it in December isn't working because it's this massive crunch for coaches. It's disrupting bowl season. There was a team that couldn't play in their bowl game because they had so many players enter the portal. Last year, Utah State in the Georgia State game, Georgia State was massively impacted by transfers. Still ended up winning that game, but were massively impacted by those transfers. And the spring window obviously has a huge problem too, because you have coaches who think they have their roster put together, and then nope, no, you don't. The Power 5 team across the state decided that they're going to poach 2 or 3 of your starters. Good luck. Good luck finding somebody else. I guess go find a P5 transfer who hasn't been getting any playing time. That's your best bet at this point. Otherwise, you're just going to find cast-offs from other G5 schools. Like, that's something that's happened to so many teams where, well, and heck, with P5, they'll lose the back end of their roster if there's guys who don't feel like they're going to play and they just want to, transfer somebody else because maybe they initially lost a position battle and aren't willing to be patient or wait it out. So Craig Bohl, a name that should be familiar to Aggie fans, a former Wyoming coach, he's the AFCA president. He said these recommendations are intended to allow a student athlete and coaches more opportunity to focus on their season while preserving the opportunities for students who still choose to transfer to still be able to do so for the traditional spring semester. He said, we look at all kinds of information. And says, I'm convinced our coaches care deeply about the student athletes. So this decision was made through the filter of allowing them more stability and to be able to move forward. And yeah, I really like this potential change. And the key, I keep saying key potential, and that's because the next step is it needs to go to, what was the name of, goes to the NCAA Oversight Committee and then the NCAA Division I Council. And it's a really good change. And I've been talking about how they need to find a way to change this, but I've been kind of lamenting the fact that they want to have the transfer portal to where you can still get into the spring semester. That's kind of been the biggest key. It's why it was in December, so that you can transfer out at the end of the fall semester and get in time, well in time for the spring semester. In this, it'll be a bit of a rush to get in for the spring semester, but you can still do it. And so I think that it is the exact kind of change that needs to happen for college football. Because coaches, it's part of why coaches are dipping out on bowl games. I don't think that would necessarily end. And I don't think it would end players skipping out on bowl games to go into the portal, but it would stop a ton of people from entering the portal in the middle of bowl season, in the middle of, there'll be a lot of coaching turnover with a lot of teams. Having the transfer portal madness happening in December is the worst possible time, at least of the off season, because it's not quite the off season for half the teams in FBS. And the reason that guys are just entering in so quickly, the reason they don't even wait for the bowl games, the reason some guys don't even wait for their team's playoff games. And you got playoff teams losing guys to the portal because they got to get into the portal early, because otherwise they're not going to be looked at. Because you go into the portal, that's when the recruiting process starts. You're hosting guys for visits. You're focusing your attention on all the guys that you're going to try and bring in if you're a coach. And if you enter the portal on December 28th, how many teams are still sorting through the portal to find the guy who just barely came in? No, they're 2-3 weeks into the evaluation process of the 30 guys they have on their list, or however many guys they have on their list to bring in. And unless you're a really big hotshot transfer portal entry, on December 28th, you're probably not going to get picked up, or at least you're a lot less likely to get picked up. And it may not be until like January, February, and you'll be behind on winter workouts and spring ball and all that. So that's why when the portal opened, like the entire back end of Utah State's roster basically entered the portal because they were trying to get out in front of it as soon as possible. I've got to get out there and get on people and get on coaches' lists ASAP. And that's why you see this giant rush right into. That's why guys announce they're entering the portal before the portal even opens because they're trying to get out in front of all this. And that phenomenon is why I say you're still going to have people saying that, like you have people saying they're entering the portal and they do it in October, and they're not grad transfers, but they're making themselves available to coaches. Matthew Sluka is saying he was entering the portal 4 games into the season. Bear Alexander basically doing the same thing for USC. It's not going to stop that, but those every now and again cases that you see throughout college football, those will be the only ones entering the portal outside of the January window. So to me, this is a potentially beautiful change. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to change the dynamic of the transfer portal. It's not going to be the savior redeemer of college football. But it is a much needed adjustment. And I think looking at the early signing period, and again, like the transfer portal in December and the early signing period is probably the biggest reason why coaches dip out in the middle of bowl season. I don't know if they're ever going to get rid of the early signing period, I think I forget if they were looking to get rid of it or not. I don't know. There's so much changes. I can't remember which changes are happening and which aren't. 8968 saying I would be so for this portal change. The portal, the way it is ruining college football. Yeah, it's ruining. I don't know. Did it ruin bowl season? I don't know. We just had the conversation like 3 or 4 days ago about how a ton of people still watched bowl season. ESPN saying they had some of the highest ratings they've ever had for a lot of the bowls. But I think it would just be so much better for coaches, for incoming coaches, for coaches who are staying on. It would be better for just everybody to be able to just kind of calm down for the month of December, focus on your high school recruiting. You can have a lot of these behind the scenes talks, talk with the players. Are you thinking of entering the portal? Are you thinking of, staying? Like, what's the situation? Like, is there still going to be tampering in December? Yes, there's going to be tampering in December. That's always going to happen. Heck, it's apparently still happening. Jared Calhoun was on a show the other day where he talked about how, I think 8 of the 14 players on the team had been contacted by NIL agents, talking about, maybe looking at entering the transfer portal, that, teams within the state have already reached out to try and poach them, different things like that. So the tampering is going to be there. Guys entering the portal and saying they're basically quitting on their team, like that's still going to happen. But that is a small percentage of transfers. And the problem with the transfer portal as it currently sits is that you have a way too hectic December where roster change is happening while games are being played. You might be a day or two before a bowl game is being played, and then somebody says, yeah, I'm entering the transfer portal. Like a coach could have a press conference at the beginning of bowl week, and then on Friday he says, oh, yeah, I've lost like 2 of my starting offensive linemen to the transfer portal. Oh, well, I guess that's that. Coaches can't even focus on bowl prep because they're focused too much on recruiting. Like the last 2 or 3 times that I've been to a bowl game, we ask the coach, like they'll have a media availability at the press conference and be like, what's the preparation been like for the bowl game? And they'll say, yeah, we basically haven't done any prep. Paraphrasing, obviously. We've been recruiting. You've basically not had any practices. The coaches haven't even been in town because they've been recruiting. They've been working on the early signing period. They've been working on transfers. And again, like 20 guys will have gone into the transfer portal before the bowl game even starts. And then I think the other big thing, because while the December portal was bad enough, the spring window was even worse. Because that's tampering to heck and back. Is basically, your P4 teams phoning in all of the projected starters of all the G5 teams saying, hey, we want to bring you in. They promise them a chance to go, play for a big team, but half the time they're not even going to get a starting job. Half the time they're not even going to be a contributor. Sometimes they are. Sometimes you're Devon Booth, who is a key player for his team. For was it Ole Miss? I suddenly can't remember which SEC team you went to. But then there's your Micah Davises or your Paul Fitzgeralds, who didn't play anything. They were basically backups because they got offered NIL money to go be a backup. Probably not told they were going to be a backup, but given NIL money to go be a backup, and they leave in the spring window because they just got offered a ton of money. They got offered 6 figures by these, big old collectives, and then they go. And so you'd have a lot of teams just having their rosters pilfered. And there was nothing any of them could do about it because Utah State can't offer 6 figures to, just one of their starting defensive ends. I don't even know if they can offer 6 figures to their star players. So that was just another problem. And so eliminating the spring window, being able to, on January 12th of every year, say, look, this is my roster. Maybe still adding some transfers. I mean, I guess at that point, the portal window, you'd lose a ton of your roster. And so it'd be in, I guess, mid-February, in mid-February, you'd be able to say, all right, this is my roster. And know that roster, barring maybe somebody quitting or whatever, or if you have a grad transfer who decides to leave, you'd know, basically in mid to late February, whenever you started finishing up, getting to your 105 player roster cap, you'd say, this is my roster. I know this is my roster that I'm going to have on, September 1st, when I'm playing my first game of the season, whether it be late August or first week of September. That would be a huge blessing to college teams, and especially group of 5 college teams. Just knowing that, hey, this is the roster I got. This is the roster we're going to go with. So I really hope that this change goes into effect because of what it could, specifically for Utah State. Them, all Mountain West, future Pac-12 teams, this is something that really needs to happen. And I'm sure there's some benefit for P4 coaches too, because, they're the ones who were tampering and pilfering a lot of the starters from G5 teams. But maybe part of that is because maybe they're losing guys in the spring window too. They're losing their backups, so they have to replace those backups with guys from the G5 ranks. So there's, I'm sure, some incentive for this too. I imagine if there's a reason it doesn't end up going through, it's just because the oversight committees and all that would probably say maybe it's too close to the start of the spring semester. And so we don't think it's good because they're thinking about academics and making sure these guys the transfers are able to enroll by the beginning of the spring semester. And honestly, I don't know if they would really be able to do that because you basically have to enter the portal on January 2nd. I mean, I know some don't start their classes until about now. I think there were some schools that started their classes this past Monday, but you'd have to enter the portal on January 2nd. If you're doing this legit, you'd enter the portal on January 2nd and then commit probably within 4 or 5 days and then go through the process of enrolling for the spring semester and, moving across the country potentially. So you might even have to get committed in the first couple of days, which is unlikely, especially because guys want to do visits and different things like that. So you'd see a lot of guys, you'd see a lot of guys committing in mid to late January and early February, and spring semesters will have already started. But So I think that if there's something that ends up shooting this proposal down, it'll be the general inability to get guys enrolled in the spring semester. 5452 texting and saying, is there anywhere that tracks what players are offered for NIL and what they're actually paid? I think that would be interesting. Heard so many stories of players being offered something and receiving nothing close financially or playing time when all is said and done. And there's no place that, like, you know, if you're looking for like some kind of spreadsheet or like, you know, volume of players track, like, you know, or a large amount, of players like in a list that shows what they're being offered. Usually it's just stories. I think probably should have tried to send in grammar requests. I don't think some of these have been sent in, like, or like looking at filings for some of the NIL collectives, because they, in an effort to dodge taxes, basically, they all put themselves up as charity organizations. So they're supposed to file things publicly. I think there have been some attempts to make some exemptions and help these NIL collectives avoid scrutiny, because they don't want the numbers being reported. I know in Utah, I think there's been some efforts to ensure that NIL collectives don't have to divulge what they're paying players. As far as what they're offered, like, nobody's really tracking that except for reporters who get that information from NIL agents who will tell reporters, oh yeah, this guy was offered $2 million by this school. The offers are something that's only just going to get leaked. As far as what they're actually getting paid, it's something that probably should be publicly known. But as far as I know, there's not really been anybody who's broken through to specifically list what every single player is being paid for, like, any given team. 8968 texting in saying, big teams have been tampering with smaller teams forever, even in this state. Who does the portal legit? I want to see legitimate college football. Yeah, like legit college football again. And I keep saying this, y'all are probably tired of hearing me say the words collective bargaining, but that's the only way that college football goes to any kind of fairness, as far as, you know, looking at eliminating things like tampering. I know tampering can still happen in the pros, but it's a lot less common, especially because you got agents that there's a whole deal with what agents do in the professional ranks, especially in the NBA. But yeah, if you want to see like legit football, I don't know if it'd be college football, because again, once you go into collective bargaining, college football as we know it for the last 100 some odd years is dead, because that kind of just kills what college football has been. But we've already kind of lost it. So if you want to see the avoidance of tampering and rampant transfer portal and like yearly free agents, the only way you get away from that is the big bad words, collective bargaining, the two words that scare the NCAA the most. They are terrified from the words they see in their nightmares, but I feel will eventually happen, but that may take years, if not decades. We're going to take another break. We'll play a game, flip a coin. Will Eric be here by the next segment? We'll see. See if he can make it in by the end of the show. But we'll be back here on the Full Court Press.
Les Olson IT is your source for top quality technology. We carry the latest desktop and laptop PCs in stock, configured to your specific needs, and backed by our award-winning support team. And if your business demands high-performance hardware, we offer custom-built computers that can tackle any task. We also offer great computer accessories like monitors, keyboards, speakers, Fujitsu document scanners, and more. Get a quote today. Les Olson IT.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
Cold weather is here. Let the gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah's fireplace category help you update your home with Heat and Glow's full line of gas or wood-burning products. Building a new home? Let the professionals at Advanced Fireplace and Stove design and install your fireplace. From traditional to modern, Heat and Glow has something for every design and every budget. Install a product that will allow your family to make memories for years to come. Stop by at their showroom or visit them at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press, and welcome back to Logan, Eric Frandsen.
Oh, hello.
Good to have you back. I didn't flip the coin. I said I was going to flip a coin. Will Eric be back? And then right as I turned off the mics going to break, Eric waltzed in.
Yeah, it was a waltz.
Yeah, I just waltzed in like, I'm Eric Frandsen. I'm the most important person in the building.
Yeah, sorry. Intended to be here on time, the start of the show. But a couple of us ran up to Idaho. We've got some radio stations in Idaho Falls, Southeast Idaho market. And we were up there visiting with our staff up there. And anyways, they went a little long. But it was fun. We had a great time with them and saw some things that they're doing that we're going to be integrating here. But, yeah, so sorry I'm a little tardy.
Sorry's not going to cut it, Eric.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if I can act very well. I was supposed to sound like I was really sad and almost going to cry. I don't know if I can pull that off. I'm not a voice actor.
You just play a radio guy on the radio.
Yeah, I play I'm not a radio guy. I play a radio guy.
Right, you play a sports guy on the radio.
Yeah, basically. I actually hate sports. I can't stand it. It's the worst thing I have to do my entire life. I'd rather be like an accountant or something. But no, I came here for the money. I mean,
yeah, definitely not.
So, Eric, we've been having a lot of fun. We talked about Mountain West basketball in the first hour, a lot about Utah State as well. Like I went over some of the challenging stretches where I think this is actually the next 5, 6, 7 games actually might be the easiest stretch of the season. Easy kind of in air quotes.
Air quotes.
If I said that in front of Jared Calhoun, he'd probably give me a dirty look.
Yeah, he might smack you.
But it's easier than than the way they're going to finish the year. But the one thing, and I was saving it for the second hour because I thought you might be here. We just finished going over it, but since you waltzed in the door, did you see the news about the transfer portal potential changes?
I hadn't seen it. I heard you talking about it,
okay.
And I think we should all be able to recognize change needs to happen. Where this is the only sport that has 2 free agency windows, which is bonkers. But it's also at really inopportune times. And I agree with you. I think that this December has become such a watered down version of what it used to be, with getting your high school recruits or even junior college recruits, preparing for bowl games. That doesn't happen anymore, at least not to the degree that it should be done. So this gives coaching staffs, I think it gives them a little bit more time to breathe, because what they're subjected to now is pure insanity. If you're a bowl team and you're trying to do recruiting and you're trying to keep your roster intact or figure out who's leaving and how to replace them, quickly. So I agree that it needs to be shifted. And I think it will be tricky, as you pointed out. Players who declare in the portal and finding a new destination getting the financial aid and getting enrolled in a new school during the winter semester, if you want to be able to participate in the spring ball, that's really tricky, but it can be done. And it would come at a time where coaches would have more bandwidth to focus on that, where things are happening a little bit more quickly with who's in and who's out. They would have more opportunity with their staff to just pay attention to that, outside of those very few teams that would still be alive in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and I know some people, I've seen responses of people saying like, move it back so the team's in the playoff, don't have to worry about the portal. I was like, if you're in the playoff, whatever. That's just the price of doing business. You're in the playoff. Deal with it.
Yep. It's an equalizer.
And I think, but I think maybe making an exception, because the playoff doesn't even end until like after the portal window would close. So maybe make an exception to allow those guys in the playoff, but allow the guys in the playoff to enter the portal like after they've left the playoff. But yeah, pulling the entire window another 10, 20 days where it's already getting stretched to its limit by having it be, first couple of weeks of January, like pulling another 10 or 20 days for two teams. That's a bridge too far.
Right. You're holding up the entire system for just a few handful of players who may put their names in.
Yeah.
When there's going to be 7,000 players into the portal, and you're going to hold it up for maybe 20 or 30.
Yeah, 20 that are going to transfer.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense.
The back end of the rosters of the national championship teams. Because right now it's like there are 50 teams that aren't in bowl games, and they're the ones who have nothing to do during transfer portal season. But there's 84 teams that have something to do in December that involves playing football.
Right.
And they're having to focus all of their energy not on playing football, but on keeping their roster together and trying to bring in recruits for next season. It's like what I was saying last segment, where it's like when you talk to coaches at the bowl press conferences, you ask them, all right, what's preparation like? It's like, we haven't prepared at all.
No.
Because I've not even been in town.
No. Right. Yeah, it used to be this big thing, like going to a bowl game. It's like a second spring, and you get all these extra practices and the young players and develop them. And then you get to do film on your opponent and all this stuff. It's morphed into, we're so dang busy with everything else. Then we're going to travel to our destination, wherever we're bowling. And maybe then like a day or two, a few days before, when we're at the destination, that's when we'll start to implement what our game plan is for our opponent.
Yeah. But half the time they're doing
no benefit to the young guys. It's not a first spring or anything like that.
Yeah. And half the time, not that this is a bad thing, but they're often like going off doing like activities and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
As part of bowl week. And again, I'm not knocking that, but it's like, again, there's just no preparation. As you said, there's no real practicing. They might do some strength and conditioning and whatnot, but then half the time they're still recovering from a football season they've just done. So you can't go too hard on them in strength and conditioning. So it's a mess. And I know bowl season was actually pretty good this year, but I think it would just be even better without all of these things to worry about.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, I wasn't quite sure. I didn't know if I caught it, but with this proposal, is it going to eliminate the spring transfer window?
Yes,
there's only one window.
There will only be one window.
Oh, please make it so.
Yeah, just honestly, I would be content with just eliminating the spring window. Like if you still had the December window and how dumb it is, I could live with that if you got rid of the spring window. I would trade having this January window for just getting rid of if you say we can't do it in January because it just doesn't work, we can't get guys in, it doesn't work academically, I'd be like, fine, can we just get rid of the spring window, please?
Yeah.
And I'd take that.
Right. 2 free agencies in any sport. You don't see that anywhere.
Yeah, it's
totally stupid.
It's like imagine you have free agency in the NBA starts July 1st or 4th or first couple of days of July, and it goes. And it technically never really ends because if you're a free agent, you can get signed at any point. But that's when free agency opens. That's when contracts end. But then imagine a bunch of contracts suddenly ended in August or excuse me, not August, more like October
Yeah,
or like September.
Training camp is starting, and then there's another free agency window.
You're in the middle of your preseason, and suddenly your star player's contract ends, and he's a free agent now. Like, just that's how stupid it is.
Yes.
Because, you're doing spring ball, and last year when I was in spring ball, I'm doing all my articles and perhaps like, here are the guys you should know, and here are the biggest names coming back, and we're starting to think about our top 25 Aggies and all these different things. And, we get through the spring window, and I go back to my article saying, here are the most important players to know. There'll be like 10 of them, and then 7 of them aren't on the team anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm dealing with. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, these are the most experienced players. These are the newcomers to know. These are the returners to know. Like, listicles that have 30 players that I'm trying to highlight that fans should know, because with turnover, that's a big part of my thing, is introducing fans to players that I've done a lot of legwork and homework on. But by the time I finish my research from watching spring, from digging into what I can find about them, what I've seen from them at practices and scrimmages, by the time we've done all that legwork, half of them are gone.
Right. Well, we're excited to get to know a new player who transferred in December to Utah State, did a little bit of spring ball. But then by the time the fall camp comes around, he's already transferred again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a few of those cases.
Yeah, there's been guys who transfer in January and transfer in April. It's just crazy. 8968 saying the top 25 Aggies are the ones that didn't leave. There might only be about 25 Aggies left on the roster after all the transfers and graduations. Again, there weren't like a bajillion transfers. Like, there were more transfers last year and the year before. Like, I think I only got up to 33 transfers away from Utah State. But there were like 30 graduations, I'm pretty sure.
But look at this roster right now for Utah State as it's looking for the 2025 season. How many guys that are going to be seniors started their careers as freshmen at Utah State?
Probably barely any. Like,
you probably count it on one hand.
And
I don't know if you'd use all your fingers either.
There's Ike. Sometimes some offensive and defensive linemen. I have to go through and look.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
How many different athletes do you go through in a roster, and how many in the signing class, and how many of those guys stay there from start to finish?
Yeah, basically nobody.
Basically nobody.
Like,
that's the state of college football right now.
Well, it's like when you watch a broadcast, it's just the thing to hear nowadays. Like, it's such and such player, the Auburn transfer, such and such player, the Utah transfer, such and such player, the USC transfer. Everyone's little suffix to their name, the thing to introduce them is their transfer from somewhere.
Yeah. Where were they before?
And a lot of times they're at 2 schools, or sometimes 3 schools, or sometimes, I already mentioned earlier, but like Barry Alexander, where he was at 4 high schools and he's going to be at 3 universities through 3 years of college.
Yep.
It's like,
what are we doing? That can't be healthy for anybody.
It's not. They think it is. Then there's also Matthew Sluka, the news today. He's transferring to James Madison.
Oh.
The guy who was apparently promised $100,000 to go play for UNLV.
I don't know if James Madison has a big pockets.
Probably not. James Madison was probably just walking into the meeting like, we're not paying you $100,000. You still interested? And Sluka, after being like, nobody else wanted me, so
I just want to play. I'm sorry.
Yeah, apparently it's his old head coach, so that's probably a big reason why.
Oh, it had something to do with it.
Yeah, so it's somebody I guess he trusts. 9-15 says the Hall of Fame guy that has his jersey in the stadium will be the guy that plays 5 full years for one team in college football.
Yeah, no kidding, right? We'll be should be writing stories about the guys that start and finish their careers in one place.
Well, I tell you, a lot of the career records at a lot of Group of 5 football conferences, or a lot of Group of 5 football teams, and like all the mid-major basketball programs, they're going to be pretty safe. One, because of COVID. A lot of them will have set like 5-year records that you can't beat. But who's sticking around for 4 or 5 years to set career records?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I mean, for the Aggies, like, who's going to break the scoring record? I mean, J.C. Carroll's scoring record is pretty tricky to beat anyway. Like, A.B. Mason, I mean, I don't know if he can break J.C.'s. He'd have to score like 25 a game for like his last 2 seasons, but are we guaranteeing that Mason's going to stick around? If he scores 25 points a game like next year, is he still going to be there for his senior year? To be honest, he might just go to the NBA if he averaged 25 a game, but
yeah.
Like, who's going to stick around to break those records? Not that that's the worst problem. Like, oh no, what about the records? But it just kind of goes to show that you're losing. Like, players aren't going to have the identity with their teams. Programs aren't really going to be able to identify with their players. It's just going to be like Utah State. They're at this point, they're not known for their coaches or players anymore. They're Utah State.
Right. It's known for its basketball culture.
Yeah. Who's the coach? That's some new guy this year. Who's your star player? Some transfer that we brought in. He's pretty good this year. He was overlooked, and now he's averaging 20 a game for us. It's like, that's kind of the thing with Utah State every year. That you can't really identify with the players. I mean, they're lucky they got Ian Martinez and Mason Falslev back, so there's still some continuity there. But it's just really hard for fans and programs to identify with anything within their program anymore.
Yeah.
We got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll ask Eric the most important question regarding sports right now, involving a certain head coach and a certain NFL team. That's next here on the Full Court Press.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. It's just another way we install confidence. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Happy winter. This is Mark at the Sportsman on Main Street, where we make winter fun. We are your ski, snowboard, snowshoe, and cross-country ski rental shop. Come in and rent for the day or longer and have a great time outside. We also have great deals on new skis, boots, bindings, underwear, and outerwear, so you are comfortable playing in the snow. See the Sportsman for the best deals, the best service, and most unique products you will find for the outdoors. Only at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen in the house now. Talking about the transfer portal mostly this hour. But Eric, I wanted to ask you something we briefly mentioned. We are Sports Talk Radio, so we are basically duty bound to talk about one Deion Sanders. And at this point, what is seemingly likely that he'll end up as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you'd seen any of that news today. But
yeah, I saw some things earlier this morning before I started making my trip north that was a growing possibility.
It felt like something was inevitable, that it was going to be a giant circus. That's probably the worst thing they could do because he's going to ditch out in Colorado because Shador and Travis Hunter are leaving. And then he's going to do his best to force one or both of those players onto the Cowboys. whatever it costs. Like the Titans could sell the number 1 pick for a king's ransom, almost like what the Cowboys sold Herschel Walker, I believe it was, or whatever his name was, the running back, like to the Vikings. They sold him for like a bajillion picks that helped spark their dynasty in like the 80s and 90s. And they may end up making that same mistake just to get Deion Sanders on the Cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, look, if it happens, it's a circus, but that's great for the NFL.
Yeah, everyone likes.
I mean, because Sanders has been a huge boom for college football and especially for Colorado.
So what would be bigger for the NFL as far as ratings? Taylor Swift or Deion Sanders?
Well,
that's the important debate.
That is the debate, right? For certainly Swift crosses across different demographics and audiences. But for those in the football atmosphere or environment, Sanders certainly is the bigger deal. One thing that it will be big, but I will tell you, we will grow tired of it quickly.
Oh, yeah. So many people grew tired of it at Colorado. Like, people began to hate Colorado because they're sick of it. I'm probably among that crowd, which makes me a bit of a hypocrite that I'm now bringing it up. But
well, and look what happened in their bowl game. Right? They got their butts handed to them by BYU, but that was a broadcast crew that was only prepped and prepared to and committed to talking about Colorado.
Yeah, and ESPN had a front page story about Colorado, and then buried deep within their recap section, a nice note about
just
BYU.
Happened that BYU won the game.
Yeah, just so a nice love letter that they meant to send, that they probably prepped to be a love letter about them winning over BYU, but they had to be like, oh, well, I guess it's a slightly negative. But despite losing, they're still really happy about the ending of the season.
Yes.
Just add that slight note before the end of that. Really quickly, I want to shift focus over to stuff that we might actually care about. College football, and specifically the college football title game. And also just now kind of looking back a little bit. We'll maybe take another look back once the title game happens. But, real quick, 8968 texting in before we shift completely away from the topic, saying, I'll take Taylor Swift any day. I haven't particularly listened to her. That's the thing. The worst with Taylor Swift is they just pan over to her in the box.
Right, they just
like
show
30
her
times
in the box.
It's like 30 times a game, but it's like it's between plays. I guess you can live with it. You're not watching anything else between plays.
Right. No.
But they'll do the same thing with Deion. Like after every play, they'll pan to him. What's he calling this time? What genius? What's he going to do with Shador? But going back again to college football, have the playoffs been overall satisfactory, do you think?
The college football playoffs, yeah. Although I'll be honest, I've kind of felt like they're done, but they're not done. And it's two mega brands facing off, so that'll be a certain intrigue, I guess. And a couple of coaches getting their first title.
There's all the memes about Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU because he wanted the resources to make a national title.
Yeah. But it kind of feels like I've shifted to the NFL playoffs. I'm a little more interested in the NBA and college basketball. And then every now and then I'm reminded, we still have college football playoffs that are going on.
Yeah,
it feels literally really drawn out.
Yeah, I think it's still good though, because I still enjoy a good college football game, but it does feel like it's way too drawn out. It's kind of like the end of the NFL playoffs, where you get to the Super Bowl and you're like, it's 2 whole weeks, man. And the real junkies and also degenerate gamblers, they obsess over every detail, over every second of the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, and probably do the same thing with college football. But for the more casual observer, at least nationally speaking, we're obviously a lot more invested in the Mountain West and Utah State. It does feel like you kind of forget about it because you don't really care anymore. I'll watch it. I'll tune in. I enjoy a good college football game, but I don't know. Holding the interest feels like it's a little harder.
Yeah, I agree. If there's a way they could adjust that calendar a little bit more, I just think January 20th to decide a college football national champion, it just seems really late.
It's like you're halfway through the college basketball season at that point.
Yeah, really. And so I am interested in the matchup, but at this point of the year, my attention is really shifting to other things. And I'm with you. Like, it'll come on and I'll watch it, but it's not like I'm going to be obsessing between now and then, getting ready for it and looking at the matchups and, my gosh, who's going to make this, who's going to be the X factor and what kind of coaching adjustments are they going to make? And I'm sure that's not to downplay those who are the diehard Ohio State or the diehard Notre Dame fans who are doing those things. It feels drawn out. It feels like, can we get this decided already?
It's like too little butter spread over too much bread. Yeah. I don't know if I quoted that properly. I'm going to get some Lord of the Rings nerd going to text in and tell me what the actual quote is. 8968 before we go to break, saying the college football season has dragged on too long. I keep up with the score, but I don't watch.
Yeah, it just keeps going and going.
Okay. I got to take a break. Then we'll read this text. I'm actually kind of curious, especially because it follows the one thing that I actually care about with the college football playoff championship. So we'll get to that next as we close out the show here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
This is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Is it time to start thinking about retirement, Social Security, and Medicare? Are you getting ready to retire? We can help. Come the third Thursday, January 16th at 7 p.m. to our free seminar. Every third Thursday, we provide you with the best possible information to make an informed decision. We'll empower you with the information about Medicare and Social Security. Call 752-9493. Come see us at LSS Insurance the third Thursday, January 16th. 7 p.m.
This is The Odd Couple with Rob Parker and Kelvin Washington.
The whole package is bad. Al Michaels, an all-time great NFL announcer. God awful. Just awful. The whole thing. We don't need it. Can we get rid of Thursday Night Football?
With Rob Parker and Kelvin Washington.
Weeknights from 6 to 8 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Many Aggie fans like to go to the game. Some fans love to yell at the TV, and all fans like to wear a shirt or a jacket with their favorite team's logo. Aggie fans find the best selection of USU logoed apparel at Locker 42. Find yourself an Aggie t-shirt for $10. Locker 42 features Aggie logoed hoodies, jackets, and golf shirts, and a hat wall with over 40 styles. Women's specific apparel, youth sizes for the junior Aggie, and toddler and infant Aggie items as well. Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans by Utah State fans, and proud to be part of Aggie Nation.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Closing things out here on a Tuesday. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Thanks for sticking with us here. Joining in on the Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321. Got any last-minute thoughts? Got about 3-4 minutes. We have a couple of texts coming in. 8003 saying I read the text backwards, basically. College football should be finished January 1st, in my opinion. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think going slightly into January, like kind of how they were with the previous one, where like the championship was played on like January 7th or whatever, wasn't the worst thing. But like I do think like if you have the New Year's Six Bowls, like that was a pretty good finale to the college football season. Watch the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl and yada yada yada. Fun finale, but now it's like I watched just about all the New Year's Six Bowls. I was like, oh, yeah, we got like 3 more weeks.
Yeah.
Basically.
Which, I really enjoy college football. I really love watching college football. I'm not like, we should have less college football. But it does feel like it's had its traditional window. Not that I'm like, we got to keep with tradition. But it feels like, let's wrap it up already. It's your time. You've got your moment. Now let's move on.
Everything has its season, as they say. 7854 texting in with a question. Does this championship game prove how important coaching is? If it truly was about the money, wouldn't we see 2 SEC teams in the championship game? I think that's discounting how much money that Ohio State and Notre Dame spend on their rosters. Because Ohio State, wasn't their whole thing the $20 million roster?
Yeah, they're throwing around money.
Yeah.
They're not the school of the poor. But yeah, and Ohio State has a lot of resources. Notre Dame has a decent amount of resources too, but Alabama, Georgia, Florida, those are Tennessee, those are Texas even. Those are teams that have deep pockets. Yeah. And those are definitely resource-rich institutions.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, if there's a level of the sport where coaching doesn't actually matter as much, it's going to be college. To some degree, you could say that in high school, because if you handed me, LeBron James on a high school team, I'd win, a championship. But in college, it's like it's a similar thing where it's like recruiting is the thing. Like, how good of a coach is Urban Meyer really? Is he a good coach? Probably. Fantastic recruiter. That's why it worked everywhere he went. He could recruit. How legal that recruiting was, you can debate that, on your own time. Recruiting is the name of the game. Like Nick Saban, fantastic recruiter, building his program. Tried to go to the NFL, did not work. There are a lot of college coaches who maybe try the NFL route and it just doesn't work for them. Sometimes it works, but a lot of times college coaches can't really make that transition to the NFL because suddenly everyone else has players roughly as talented as yours. There's not really that big of a talent gap. Even between the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots, the talent gap ain't that large. It's there, but it ain't the same between like Alabama and, Kent State.
Right.
Where it's like you might as well be playing like Little League at that point. That's almost the same talent gap.
Yeah, you can be an average to good coach with great talent on your roster and go pretty far. You can go really far. You can be a great coach with average talent and still win games, but you're only going to go, like, your ceiling just isn't as high.
Yeah.
But if you're a great coach with great talent, look at Nick Saban's rings.
Yeah. Now, as far as, like, once you're in the playoff, like, coaching is going to matter because, like, then you are facing off against teams who also have a $20 million roster. So coaching can be really important. You do need to be a good coach to win rings. Like, you can't be a scrub coaching-wise. You got to have good schemes. You got to know how to coach your players. But, again, so much of it is just recruiting. But it does touch on the most important thing to me in this national championship game. And that's why I'm going to be kind of rooting for Ohio State. And that's just because I want to see Ryan Day win a national championship after his entire fan base wanted him fired after losing to Michigan.
Yes. You can still find redemption.
Yeah. And just for him to be able to give a big old middle finger to the fan base and then, like, walk out the door and go be a coordinator in the NFL or something. Like, I just really want him to do that. I just think it would be absolutely hilarious. I root for chaos, and I want to watch the world burn. That's how I view college sports.
Too many people fixated over one game rather than looking at the whole body of work.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.